Hi, everyone, and welcome to our MOOC launch event. We're incredibly excited to have you here today. My name is McKenna Davis, and I will moderate the webinar today, and we'll be joined by several of our colleagues who I'm really excited to introduce in the next 45 minutes to you. But before we start, I just wanted to note that this webinar is available in English or Spanish. So if you choose to have the interpreters, you can use the button below that says interpretation, or if you don't choose, you can hear it in both Spanish and English.
Hola, buenos días. Pueden utilizar el botón de interpretación las personas que no hablan inglés.
Thank you very much. Just to check with our organization team, I don't see the slides anymore, so I hope that the slides are showing for everybody that's joining our webinar right now. Just to highlight again what I said, this course that we're introducing today, that we're launching, is available both in English and Spanish. And we've chosen to do the webinar in both languages today, just to be more inclusive and to really highlight this bilingual character of our MOOC. So just to introduce myself, I'm a senior fellow and coordinator of nature-based solutions at Ecologic Institute. We're based in Berlin. And I'm also have the pleasure of being the coordinator of the INTERLACE project within which we developed this MOOC. And I'll tell you about that more in a moment. But first, I wanted to dive in. Today, we'll be sharing more information and a teaser of what you can find in this new, free, massive, open online course that we'll call MOOC after this, which is entitled Nature-Based Solutions: How Nature Restoration Can Make More Livable, Biodiverse, and Climate-Resilient Cities. We have 45 minutes today to showcase some of the contents and highlight to you why we think you might be interested to join our community and sign up for our MOOC. But first, I wanted to set the scene a little bit about why we decided to make this course and who we're aiming to reach. So again, I can't. Okay, perfect. The slides are visible to others, not to myself. But if we can go to the next slide, please. So I think we're all aware of the many challenges facing cities and their peripheries. They're facing things like urban sprawl, increased soil sealing, and fragmentation of natural areas, climate change and its impacts. A lot of us have felt this in the last summers, like heat waves and flooding, but also challenges like pollution. And these issues degrade the natural ecosystems. They're really threatening human health and well-being, hurting biodiversity, and threatening things like social cohesion, equity, and urban resilience for our society. There's a lot of traditional approaches which have been historically applied, often building with gray infrastructure, so really these concrete built environments. But these fall short in addressing these interlinked challenges. So for this reason, we've had what we call nature-based solutions, which are really taking the forefront of international discussions right now. They really try to offer an adaptive approach that integrates nature into urban planning. Go to the definition slide, please. So here you can see the definition of nature-based solutions, which was adopted just a couple of years ago in 2022 from UNEA, from the United Nations. And I'm looking at the number of attendees right now, thrilled to see so many of you here. And judging by this really large interest in the course and its timely release right before those of you who are familiar with the United Nations Conference of the Parties for the Convention on Biological Diversity, it's taking place in Colombia in a few weeks. And we're really happy to launch this webinar as a resource leading up to that great international event where we hope we'll have some very positive outcomes. So thrilled to see all of you here and to really start the journey, let's say, to building new skills and knowledge around nature-based solutions. So just about why we designed this course. I think there's really a growing recognition of the value and the potential of nature-based solutions, but there's still a lot of capacity gaps and knowledge gaps on the ground, not least in our global cities who are really critical in trying to achieve these ambitions we have with nature-based solutions. So the will is there, but not necessarily the know-how, and we hope to try to address this. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, I've had the pleasure of coordinating the EU-funded INTERLACE project the last 4 years, within which we developed this MOOC. The project title is called International Cooperation to Restore and Connect Urban Environments in Latin America and Europe. And the project is great. It really involves 21 organizations from 11 countries, which encompasses research organizations. We have 6 city partners, 3 from the European Union and 3 from the Latin American region. We also have 4 city networks, including our partner UCLG, who you'll hear from a little bit later, and who's hosting this MOOC on their platform, and communication experts who've really been instrumental in putting together this MOOC and a lot of the resources that you'll find in the MOOC as well. So next slide, please. The project, after 4 years, I'm very sad to say the project is drawing close next year, but we've been working tirelessly for the last years to really try to make an impact to empower and equip different cities around Europe and Latin America, but also beyond, to restore urban ecosystems and make them more livable, resilient, and inclusive. So very much in line with this MOOC. We focused on exchange and capacity building within, but also between the 2 regions. And we've developed really a wealth of resources and insights that are waiting for you in this MOOC. Next slide, please. So responding to the gaps I outlined before and the need to help empower and equip cities and other actors, including the research community and practitioners around nature-based solutions, we've created this MOOC to really cover a wide wealth of topics around urban NBS, as you can see here. My colleagues are going to introduce in a moment a lot of these topics, giving you kind of a taste about why they're important, what we've done in the project, and what you can hope to learn within this free MOOC that we're offering. And then our final slide presents an overview of all of our involved partners in the project, all 21 of them. And I really hope that this course is seen as kind of a joint output and a really collective effort of all of these amazing contributions and experiences and insights from the last years. But briefly, why this MOOC? Why should you sign up? And why are we thinking that this would really be valuable for you to attend and participate in? So we've adopted a co-creation approach in which all of the materials and resources have been co-developed and tested by all of the actors within INTERLACE to ensure the relevance and utility for cities around the world. This co-creation approach will be highlighted in a moment, but it basically means that we've asked all of the city partners, along with the research community, what would they like to see, and try to really address these needs and co-create and develop the tools and resources together with these target users. Then we also have concrete tools that we offer in the course emerging from the project, which are there to map, design, and evaluate your city and the potential to implement nature-based solutions. We really try to complement this with theory, but focus mostly on this practical side of what you can really take and use and apply in your local context, but also providing further readings to deepen your knowledge even further. Then we also focus on collaboration. So as I said before, both regionally within the European context and the Latin American context, but also internationally and globally, and also with the community that you're all a part of today that we really hope to build with you as our participants. So focusing on the topic of collaboration, I'm really happy to introduce my first colleague and partner in INTERLACE who will be speaking today, Sara Maestre-Andres. She's a researcher at the Institute of Environmental Science and Technology, called ICTA, at the Autonomous University of Barcelona in Spain. Her research is focused on the governance of global climate change and biodiversity conservation by designing and evaluating strategies, policy instruments, and processes that contribute to building resilient, just, and livable territories, as well as contributing to biodiversity conservation. So Sara, I would hand over to you.
Thank you, McKenna. So good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are. So I'm really happy to be here in presenting this massive online course. So as McKenna said, co-creation has been cross-cutting along the INTERLACE project to develop several products together with different stakeholders, such as representatives from the city governments, other public institutions, formal and informal community-based organizations, and the private sector. So co-creation is a form of collaborative governance that promotes cooperation and stimulates learning between different stakeholders, because the success of nature-based solutions depends not only on its technical design and implementation, but also on its acceptance, as well as its social and political appropriation by local communities. And for that, co-creation and citizen engagement is key. Here you can see some photos of the co-creation processes that we have been developed in INTERLACE through this deliberative co-creation way. So products such as an integrated assessment system to design, implement, and monitor nature-based solutions, or the co-creation of policy instruments to promote nature-based solutions. Next slide, please. So the first question would be, why is co-creation important? So we can distinguish three main reasons for promoting co-creation. You can see them listed here in the screen. So one of them is an instrumental reason. So this idea that promoting co-creation is deemed important as it increases the social and political acceptance of nature-based solutions, as it generates more legitimate decisions and diminished conflicts. A second reason would be a substantive one. So following the idea that by incorporating a greater quantity and diversity of knowledge and perspectives, tailored, locally adapted, and more equitable nature-based solutions can be created, therefore improving the quality of decisions. And a third reason is a normative one, based on the idea that giving all relevant stakeholders the right to influence the design and management of nature-based solutions increases their appropriation of the nature-based solution. So through the involvement of stakeholders, concerns, expectations, interests, and opportunities regarding nature-based solutions can be explored from various viewpoints. Hence, participation processes must include all relevant stakeholders of the area and design so all voices are recognized. Within INTERLACE, we have considered a stakeholder as any group or individual that potentially has a direct or indirect interest in, is affected by, or has an influence on the nature-based solution. This can include the stakeholders who can provide important resources such as knowledge and expertise, stakeholders who are affected by or have an influence on the city challenges, or the planned nature-based solution intervention to address them, or simply stakeholders who are more distant to the specific nature-based solution, but are active or interested in restoring nature within cities. Next slide, please. Through the project INTERLACE, we have developed a robust roadmap, the one you can see here in the slide, to guide the deliberative co-creation process. So this roadmap has 9 steps, which are represented by these different triangles. And we have the 4, let's say, initial steps belong to early phases of planning of the co-creation process. And they correspond, in the case of the first step, in setting co-creation goals. So deciding which are the objectives of the co-creation process that you want to promote. The second step is the identification of stakeholders, so to decide who should be involved in your co-creation process, depending on the role they will have in the product that you want to develop, or the type of stakeholders they are, depending on their expertise, their profession, and so on. The third step is to choose the format and tools, so the specific ways in which you will engage stakeholders, so whether it would be a workshop, or whether it would be an online webinar, or whether it would be through interviews, for instance, if you want to capture individual perspectives on the specific product. And the fourth step is developing an implementation plan. So really listing the type of activities that you want to conduct with the stakeholders in order to co-create your final product. Then we have the 4 following steps, which belong to actually engaging stakeholders. The first one is this objective refinement, so discussing with the stakeholders the product that you want to develop. So what is the purpose of that product, which is the necessity, and why it is worth for them to develop this product. And then the following steps, the selection of criteria and the weighting of criteria, correspond to the specific ways, the specific way where we have operationalized a co-creation. So we ask stakeholders to decide which are the relevant criteria, for instance, for the design of a nature-based solution. So whether the nature-based solution should correspond to reducing the flood risk, to reducing the heat island effect, or it should also incorporate aspects in their design that are related with promoting social cohesion. And in the weighting of criteria, stakeholders have to deliberate and decide in a consensus basis which are these relevant criteria for the specific product, in this case, design of a nature-based solution. Then we have the following step, which is the stakeholder feedback. So asking stakeholders to value the co-creation process, so to express what has worked well, what has not worked well, in order to be able to incorporate their feedback in the last step, which is, as I've said, the last step. Next slide, please. Another important component of INTERLACE is the engagement of citizens. So in the 6 cities that have been part of the INTERLACE project, several engagement activities have been conducted, such as the ones that you can see here in the pictures. So citizen science, community arts, digital gaming, and learning tours. A total of 2,500 young people and adults have been directly engaged in these activities. So in the module of this online course that addresses citizens' engagement, you will learn how to do it in a really successful way. You will learn some tips and also lessons learned from this practical implementation in the 6 cities of INTERLACE. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. As you all see, and it's great to see so many of you in the chat and where you're all from. This is really exciting for us as well. But you see, we have so much information that is waiting for you in our MOOC. And so without any further ado, I would like to present to you our next speaker, Isabel Mello, who will be speaking to you next. There she is, perfect. Isabel is a biologist working at the Nature-Based Solutions Center at the Humboldt Institute in Colombia, which for those of you who don't know is the National Institute for Biodiversity Research in Colombia. She holds a PhD in ecology and conservation and a master's degree in forest and nature conservation, and brings experience in both the ecological and social aspects of biological conservation and nature-based solutions. So I hand over the floor to you now, Isa.
Thank you, McKenna, and hello and good afternoon to everybody. I'm going to speak Spanish to balance the panelists. So voy a hablar en español para so I remember if someone needs translation, please go to the bottom of your screen and choose your preferred language. Voy a hablar español para balancear un poco
I'm going to speak Spanish to balance out the estás en el canal de inglés. You're in the English channel.
Okay, so ¿puedo seguir hablando?
¿Puedes ir al canal de español, por favor, para poder traducir por aquí? Thank you. Okay, can you hear me in Spanish now? Okay, great. As McKenna said, I work at the Humboldt Institute at the Center for Nature-Based Solutions, and I participated in the creation of the MOOC videos and the creation of the guidelines that I'm going to present. Next slide, please. Okay, so in our INTERLACE MOOC, we offer a valuable opportunity to learn about nature-based solutions, and it's available in 2 languages, English and Spanish. 4 of our chapters will lead you to learn about 4 different methodological approaches that are part of the guidelines for urban transformation through nature-based solutions that we have produced within the framework of the INTERLACE project. Each of these looks, well, through the videos and the recommended literature, they provide in-depth information, so an introductory video that has more of a theoretical approach, accompanied by a video that presents a case study in the cities that have implemented these guidelines. Next, please. The guidelines for transformation were designed by Victor, the Humboldt Institute, and Yes Innovation in Ecuador. After an exhaustive pilot process within each of the 6 cities that make up this INTERLACE project, and it integrates the lessons learned during the implementation. Each city implemented one of the 3 modules that you see at the bottom: monitoring, design, planning, according to their needs, following a cross-cutting co-creation process. Next slide, please. In the spatial planning module, you will find tools to help you identify risks and vulnerabilities in a particular territory, allowing you to create a map or a snapshot that prioritizes the ideal areas for establishing nature-based solutions according to the criteria established by participants or co-creators. This module also includes, as I mentioned before, an empirical case. As I mentioned before, it will be the metropolitan area of Krakow, where this tool helped us formulate the strategy for climate change in the metropolitan area. Next slide, please. Our design module introduced an innovative process for the creation of public spaces incorporating the vision of participants or co-creators, as well as green and blue infrastructure elements. In this case, the empirical video introduces an example of Puerto Viejo, which is a city in Ecuador, where a park was designed through the main river of the city, recovering an area that had been abandoned, with a design that is sensitive to nature and people. Next slide, please. Finally, the monitoring module will guide you step by step along the co-formulation process to assess the impact of the nature-based solution selected by you. This coordinates citizen participation expert work to define adequate indicators and establish protocols for storage, collection, and analysis of information, guided by guiding questions. In the empirical case, we introduce the Envigado example and illustrate how an initiative was developed there, a monitoring strategy for an iconic nature-based solution in the city aimed at greening. I think that's the last one. So thank you very much. I'd like to invite you to explore the videos, readings, and exercises provided in the MOOC, which will give you new tools to guide implementation and assessment of nature-based solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Isabel. That was great. And just to respond to some of the questions coming up in the chat, because everyone is very interested, as we had hoped and expected, in the wealth of resources coming out of the INTERLACE project. So just to say, all of these materials are available for free in our MOOC. So we really invite you to sign up and access all of these. We'll put a link at the end of the webinar for registration, and let you know, Juan Carlos will let you know how you can do that in a moment. So the next speaker, I would like to hand over to our speaker, Xavi Romero, who is a biologist and environmental officer at Granollers City Council in Spain. He's been there for 20 years and is one of our 6 amazing city partners in the INTERLACE project. He's been implementing nature-based solutions in natural and green areas, including topics like river restoration and water resources management in his work. And he participates in several regional and national working groups on urban nature and has great experience on European projects about nature preservation and green infrastructure. So Xavi, I hand over to you to share a little bit of our city perspective. Thanks a lot.
Hello, everyone. My sincere acknowledgements for the participation in this webinar representing the cities of INTERLACE. We've worked hard and we have learned continuously over the last 5 years of the project, and I believe it's been a great initiative. The information that the cities have learned by participating in this great city has allowed these lessons to be shared in this MOOC course, and they are valid for all cities across the world. These cities are the main protagonists of this course. which may also be of great interest to students and the scientific community. Evidently, the municipal technicians, teams of directors and politicians will be able to learn about the INTERLACE approach based on SBN or NBS, mediated via an ecological, participatory and inclusive process. We have gathered success stories from all 6 cities in CELAC, but also the European Union, who have participated in INTERLACE, with examples of successful projects of territorial analysis, and also based on climate change in the metropolitan area of Krakow, and planning projects for the protection of natural local spaces in Envigado in Colombia, the citizen science projects and scientific monitoring projects in CBIMA in Costa Rica, and also work done in my own city for green transformation and participatory transformation of the most urban areas of our city. Next slide. Okay, INTERLACE has developed multiple platforms and tools which are useful for managing nature-based solutions in the most urban environments. One example, for example, would be political instruments, which are documents that aid governance of nature-based solutions in cities, which focus on participatory governance and the co-creation of nature-based solutions in our cities. The methodology is based on co-creation, which is in turn based on evaluation or assessment frameworks. And after an analysis of urban challenges, they provide results regarding the nature-based solutions that are the most optimal for acquiring environmental benefits, as well as other positive impacts in cities, such as citizen well-being and the promotion of the economy. Another project of great interest for cities is the Atlas of Urban Governance, which is a centre online that has more than 600 good practices, ranging from topics such as ecologic connectivity, water management when you have floods or droughts, river restoration, fires, heat island effects, territorial justice, social justice, and also people reconnecting with nature. We have a lot of technical documents that you will find in the different modules of the course on monitoring, citizen science, and also on how to organize events that involve citizens, which could take or adopt more traditional approaches such as education, but also things such as art. The course has a lot of content where we share what we've learned over the last 5 years of projects from partners and city networks, and there's a lot of audiovisual material, such as, for example, a video containing successful SBN or MBS projects. One case would be a video from my own city, Granollers, in the introductory module, where we introduce a process for the recovery of an urban river, which was an ecosystem that died at the end of the decade. And as a recovery process as well, we implement lots of nature-based solutions to make it a project that really recovers biodiversity and that is used socially in the river environment. This has been the most valued project at the citizen level in our city. It has had so many repercussions that we are currently implementing projects of renaturalization and green urban transformation of great magnitude. And these projects will end next year in 2025. If you'd like to have more details about this project and other examples led by other INTERLACE cities, then I'd like to invite you to consult the MOOC course to really enjoy all of the content that it offers, that will help inspire you to implement an ecological and green transformation in your own cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Xavi. It's always a pleasure. And as you guys see, I mean, we wanted to really include the city perspective in the webinar today, just not least because cities are such an important part of our Interlace project, but also a really important part of what you'll see, what you'll find, and what you'll be able to discover within the MOOC that we have here within our course. So very happy to have you. Thanks a lot, Xavi, for your presentation. And just for our final presenter today, I would like to hand over to my colleague and also a partner in the project, as with all of the speakers today, Juan Carlos Urbi, who is the Learning Program Manager at our partner city network, United Cities and Local Governments. As I said before, UCLG also hosting this MOOC, which you'll hear a little bit more about in a moment. And Juan Carlos has an academic background in landscape architecture, environmental sciences, and international cooperation. He coordinates the city-to-city learning and capacity building programs for local and regional governments at UCLG and has a particular focus on the development of resilient, inclusive, and sustainable communities. And with that, I would hand over to Juan Carlos and say from my side, it's really been a pleasure. Juan Carlos will close the webinar today. And yeah, it's been great to see all of you here. And please take it away, Juan Carlos. Hope to see many of you in the course.
Thank you very much, Magdalena, and thank you everyone for joining us today for the launch of this very exciting online course, which talks very closely to my passions on landscape architecture and sustainable and resilient communities. And I have the pleasure to kind of guide you through what the online course looks like. UCLG, United Cities and Local Governments, is honored to host this online course created by a consortium of partners collaborating with each other in our platform, which we have created for local and regional governments to access different learning offerings of different topics. And this is where we are hosting this online course. I will talk a little bit more about this at the end. But first, let's dive into the online course on nature-based solutions. So as Xavi was saying, we can go to the next slide. The course features different interactive elements, videos, study guides, and additional readings for each of the modules that were presented by McKenna. So you will have an introductory video in each chapter, kind of giving you the theory or like kind of the problematic and some of the approaches to a specific topic. We will then go into a case study video featuring one of the 6 cities that are partner of the Interlace project in Europe and Latin America. And then you will have a study guide where you can go farther, read farther about the methodology that is being presented or the approaches that are being presented. And you will have at the end of it additional readings that you can access. I know some of you were asking in the chat if those documents will be available. So those links are also provided. And then we have different short mostly quizzes for you to see if you have actually kind of gone through the different material and more of a reflection exercise of trying to see if you have understand the methodologies that were presented. If we go to the next slide, this is how the screen that you will see once you have registered to the online course. You need to register with an email address and a password that you will be able to use to access the online course whenever you want to have access to those resources. And then you have here the curriculum with all of the different lessons. Once you click on one of the lessons, we go to the next slide. It will show like this with a menu of all of the different lessons and modules on the left side and the content of each lesson on your right side. As mentioned, we have videos in the first and second lesson of each module or chapter, introducing you to the topic. And if we go to the next slide, you will see how the study guide or article shows up. We can go to the next slide now. So here you will see a more detailed explanation of what has been introduced in the video, more of a step-by-step guideline to some of the methodologies or approaches that have been developed within the Interlace project. And at the end of this study guide, you will have the links to the different resources, both from the Interlace project as well as more biographical references that you can access to if you want to learn more about it, different methodologies or how this approach has been used in different environments or contexts. We can go now to the next slide. You will also find at the end of the chapter some a quiz like this one, which is basically kind of a way of inviting you to look in detail at the different material that we have prepared for you. So kind of make sure that you check hear the presentations that our partners from the different cities or organizations have given you, and the resources that they have been providing. And if you see that you're missing something, you can always go back to the lesson and read further about the questions that you might have missed. So this is what the online course looks like. It has been published today. As you can see, everything shows draft in the screen that I'm sharing right now. But if you actually access the links that we are sharing now in the chat, you will be able to access those resources that have been already published. We can go now to the next slide. Oh, and yeah, very important. Once you finish going through all of the different lessons in the online course, you will receive this certificate of completion in the Spanish or English version as just a token of congratulations for following the lessons. And as part of this online course, as I was mentioning, it is being hosted by United Cities and Local Governments, UCLG, in its Learning with UCLG platform. And if we go to the next slide, you will be able to see this is a platform that we started almost 4 years ago to kind of provide easier access to the different resources that UCLG and the network within UCLG of different local government associations and partners have been developing for local and regional governments and the relevant stakeholders. So once you sign up to this online course, you will not only have access to the online course on nature-based solutions, but you also will be able to register and enroll in other courses that we have developed so far. There's 17 courses in English, 14 in Spanish, looking at different issues such as resilience, such as sustainable development goals, that might also link to the work that you are doing in your cities, and that might kind of expand the knowledge that you can earn from this nature-based solutions online course. As part of UCLG, we also organize live sessions with the participants from our Learning with UCLG platform. So we hope that even beyond the INTERLACE project timeframe that it ends in February next year, we will be able to organize some sessions in which we can invite cities to share their experiences and participants from the online course to learn from each other. This is also something that we're thinking of doing together with the other city networks that have been involved in the INTERLACE project, which include Climate Alliance, FLACMA, the Federation of Latin American Municipalities, and their associations, and the Costa Rican Association of Municipalities. And we hope that through this, you also get to have access to other resources made for and by local and regional governments. So I think that's everything from now. I just want to check that the courses, oh yeah, this is the links that hopefully one of my colleagues can also put on the chat. But if you use your phone, you can access directly the QR codes to go into the English or the Spanish registration page. So we invite you to look at these resources, learn more about what my colleagues were introducing to you today, about the cases of Granollers, of Envigado, of Cracovia, Chemnitz, Puerto Viejo, or the Costa Rican or the Severima biological corridor, and all of the different methodologies that our partners have developed together with those cities. Thank you very much for joining us today. We hope you enjoy the online course, and do also let us know what you think of it. At the end of the online course, you will find a feedback survey where you can also share with us what was it that you learned, what was the most inspiring, and how do you plan to use the knowledge gained in your work in the future. So please go explore the resources that we have developed and let us know what you think of them and what you plan to do to work for nature and people in your cities or regions. Thank you very much, everyone.